In the last tutorial we looked at the buffer object, and in this tutorial we'll look at one of the objects which refers to it that you can use to play back sound, and that is the play tilde object. So I've got the buffer here. I've called it mySound1, given it a size of 2000 milliseconds, and it will accommodate 2 channels. And then my play tilde object, I always have to refer to the buffer from which I want to derive the sound, and this too has an argument of 2 which gives it 2 channels. So if we look over here at the exercises, it says you will notice that in this patch the line tilde object, which we have encountered obviously before in relation to creating envelopes, here it's being used to read through the contents of this buffer via the play tilde object. So line is being given, in this case, a series of numbers that refers to milliseconds. So from 0 to 2000 milliseconds in the file, over 2000 milliseconds, so it will play back at normal speed. So if I turn on the audio and load a sound, so once again we're going to go to the drum loop sound. I click on 0 to 2000 over 2000 milliseconds. We hear the first 2 seconds of that sound. So the next thing it says is, depending on the values given, i.e. where line is reading from and to, and how long it's been given to get there, the sound can play back at different rates and can play backwards. So in this message box, it tells the line object to read through play from 0 to 1000 milliseconds over 500 milliseconds. So it'll read through the first second at double speed, because it's been given half the amount of time to cover that amount of time. Then it will count from 1000 to 2000 over 2000 milliseconds. So it's reading a second's worth of data, but over 2000 milliseconds, so it's going to play at half speed. And then it's going to play backwards, because it's got to go from millisecond 2000 to 0, and that will happen over 1000 milliseconds. So again, at twice speed, because it's got half the time to get there. So we can listen to that. So as you heard, it played the first second quickly, then from the first second to the second second slowly, and then from the second second all the way back to the start quite quickly, and obviously backwards. So you can play with the line object to read through the buffer in that way. And then it requires you to use a function object to read backwards and forwards through the contents of a buffer tilde object over a period of 10 seconds. So to do that, we will make a function object. And go back to what it's asking us to do. So it's saying we need to read through the contents of that buffer over a period of 10 seconds. So we want to change the domain value to 10 seconds. Now we can either do that in the inspector window or do what I'm about to do, which is to set domain here to 10 seconds. Remember that I have to lock the patch and then click that in order for that command to be sent to the function object. And then it says change the low and high display range to 2000. Why 2000? Because we are reading through the length of the file, which is 2000 milliseconds. So vertically that will represent where in the file we are reading from and to. So I will do the same thing there, set range 0 to 2000. Lock the patch, send that. And then we just need to connect that to the line object. And that means that we can do a kind of wiggle through the sound file over 10 seconds. Oh, I need a bang to initiate that. So that works. Next question, how would you now reduce the duration of playback dynamically rather than having to use the inspector window? So set domain I actually gave a value to. If I change that to a $1 symbol, as we've used before, that allows me to send a number dynamically to a function in order to change it. So instead of it being 10 seconds long now, we could make it well, less than a second, half a second even, which gives us that. And then it says, how would you get this scrubbing pattern to loop? Well, in one of the previous tutorials for sampling, I told you that you could send a message from the right hand outlet of line to this button object, and that will send a bang every time the function object completes its envelope, and then we'll trigger the envelope again. And that means that now I can change the domain length as it's looping. That sounds quite nice actually. So the next page just gives you a prettier version of that.